2013 was obviously a very difficult time for the Russian automotive market. How does Volkswagen and the group perceive 2014 to be? What is your prognosis?
Yes, indeed. 2013 was a difficult year, but honestly, if you look into the base data of the market, it started already 2012, in the end of 2012 being more difficult. 2014 is a very tough one to predict. I mean, if you look at the two factors which mainly influence the market, which is the economic development, it's going to be further deteriorating in Russia in 2014, certainly. I mean, the Olympics gave a little bit of a positive push, but in general, the economics is weakening, despite the high oil price, by the way, which is astonishing. And one of the reflections of that weak economy, of course, you see in the exchange rate, which has to the euro depreciated 25%. Now, what will happen is, of course, that as most of the automotive companies, we are all still heavily dependent on a global network of supplies, which is, of course, in euros and dollars. All this network of supplies became 25% more expensive. Now, eventually, we have to price that into the market, and that will further deteriorate demand. Now, to give an exact prediction is difficult. Last year we had a passenger car market of 2.58 million, that we think it's going to be somewhere in the range of 2.3, 2.4 million, if the rest of it keeps stable.
2.4?
2.3, 2.4 million.
Yep.
If the rest of the environment keeps stable. Yeah? I mean, of course, you don't know what is happening in this East-West confrontation now. We hope that it will die down pretty quickly. But if that tension rises, of course, it might come worse with the exchange rate and also with the total market.
What's your opinion of the Russian government's view of the automotive industry? Are they doing enough, in your opinion, to support you, or are they too prescriptive in their regulations and localization, for example?
No, I think what the Russian industry did with the automotive industry is really a textbook example on how to develop an industry. I mean, if you look historically, and no other industry in Russia has done that. All the foreign manufacturers are here, are now producing here, have built up production capacities, and I think that is a great achievement. Of course, as a government, you try to come up with some regulations because you want to achieve something in terms of localization and building up the industry. I mean, as we have discussed the setup together with the government, not only us but all the manufacturers, and it's sort of not only the Russian rules, it's really the rules which we created together with the Russians and we gave ourselves. I think it's fine, it's achievable. Yeah? Of course, there is a long way to go. I mean, we have more or less succeeded localizing tier 1 suppliers next to all the manufacturing sites. But now it's tier 2 suppliers, tier 3 suppliers. It's some of the base industries, some of the base chemical and steel products which need to come as well. And that is really the next phase. That's the next job, which we are closely discussing with the government what to do now.
Are you personally involved with those discussions yourself?
Of course I am, constantly. And that's one of the jobs, I think, and that's the beauty of being in Russia, because the government is working very business-like, so you can have a lot of discussions. They listen to your input, they want your input. Sometimes very spontaneous. They call you and say, on Wednesday, let's meet on Monday with the minister and have an intensive discussion about how we go forward. But that's the beauty of being in Russia and managing in Russia.
So the minister that spoke this morning, you're in contact with him, for example?
The vice minister spoke this morning. Yes, I'm in constant contact with him. I just met his minister, his boss, 2 weeks ago in Sochi. On the closing ceremony, we had a long discussion. We met coincidentally, but had a long discussion how the industry is going forward. Yes, indeed. I mean, the contact is very close.
Is there something that the Western economies can learn from the way the Russian government approaches its domestic auto market?
Oh, it's difficult because, I mean, the Western economies have a long time developed auto market. It's very stable. It's very constant. I'm not sure. I mean, certainly the way of government here is sometimes a bit spontaneous, which we don't have in the West. But that has its advantages and disadvantages. Yeah? Sometimes we get laws or regulations which which are developed within a week, which you have to change and obey to. On the other hand, you can influence things much more easier than you can in the West. So I think there's pros and cons.
Have you seen an uptick in sales because of the recent tensions that you mentioned between the East and the West at the moment? Are people expecting price increases in the automotive market?
I think the recent tensions have nothing to do with the short-term developments on the market. That will be more of a long-term impact. The short term we have seen before the tensions, long before the tensions, we have seen a steep increase in exchange rate and, as I said, a drop down in economy. The Russians have learned for a long term how to react to exchange rate changes and of course the Russians now expect price increases, and that's why they preempt their purchases, which they would have done in Q2, Q3. They do now. So what we see now is not a real uptake in the market. It's just something which pulls forward Q2 and Q3 sales.
You mentioned the Olympic Games. What was Volkswagen's involvement in that?
I mean, we were the general sponsor, the general automotive sponsor. We gave more than 4,000 cars to the Olympic Games, and it was a pleasure to see how Sochi was totally Volkswagenized, Audinized and Skodanized. You only saw our vehicles. That was a real pleasure. And I think we achieved a very good awareness here in Russia about our products and our brands. And from all the studies we have seen, it has been a real successful engagement. In Sochi itself, of course, we didn't only have the cars, we had a big showcase where we demonstrated the strength of the group in Russia, where we engaged more than 20,000 people who visited our showcase, and not only normal people, also all the celebrities, all the sportsmen, all the VIPs were visiting us, and that was a great success.
How is Volkswagen and the group viewed as a brand in Russia? Do people expect the same quality that they would get, for example, in Germany? Do people specify that they want some local components or German components, or is it really not an issue for Russian consumers?
I mean, I think still Volkswagen, as one of our brands in the group, their biggest equity is the German heritage, the German engineering. And we keep that up. We keep the German quality despite we produce some of the products in Russia. Sometimes Russian customers don't believe it, but we have exactly the same quality standards, and we can measure and we can compare easily with our German brands in terms of quality, which we are very proud of. You know, there's always this little competition between the plants worldwide, who has the best quality, and in Russia we are good, so we are very good. And that is something I think Volkswagen still stands for. The quality, the German heritage, the wide range of cars, the reliability.
You have some difficulties with trade unions in the US, for example, in Chattanooga in Tennessee. How would you characterize the state of industrial relations with Volkswagen in Russia, and do you have a good relationship with your unions?
I mean, we have in Russia here, we have in the factories, we have in total 3 unions representing the workers. The relationship is very good. We have just a year ago negotiated a very comprehensive new contract with all 3 unions together. So I think in Russia we have quite a normal relationship.
Do you have a works council type setup, or is it different?
Part of the agreement we struck with the unions a year ago was that we will form one, and we are right now in the process of forming one. But I think it's a different situation than from the US, really.
There's no question that you're forcing people to join the union, for example. That it's a voluntary.
It's totally voluntary, and as everywhere in the world, by the way, Volkswagen forces nobody to join the union. It's all voluntary. As I said, we have 3 unions here in Russia representing the workers.
What is your outlook for the next couple of years with domestic component situation? Are you happy that the quality of Russian products is sufficient for Volkswagen?
I mean, we have succeeded really bringing a lot of the Western suppliers to Russia, and their quality is high and stable. We still would like to encourage more of the Russian suppliers, not the foreign Russian suppliers, so to really engage stronger with us, and really become more stable in their supplies, provide higher quality. But I think it's a matter of time, and we will get there.
Do Russian consumers know if it's a Russian component or a German component? Do they want German quality, or they don't care?
I think it doesn't really matter. Sometimes you hear from customers that they would rather buy German quality or German produced cars than Russian produced cars. But as I said before, you can't really differentiate with any of our global production sites where the quality is. It's a Volkswagen group quality, and that's the same all over the world.